2019. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? At this time, I'd like to, does any member of the council have a conflict of interest, appearance of conflict of interest, an interest with regards to any item on the agenda? If so, please state it at this time.
No.
No.
Jan?
No.
No?
I do not.
Amendment to approve the draft agenda?
I only have one comment regarding it. Could we have the workshop after the public comments, the budget workshop?
It's going to follow this agenda, right? The public?
You can have the last, you're talking about the second public comment period, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
No,
mean, that,
I'm talking about after the council meeting, we'll continue the recess for the budget workshops.
There'll be. it'd be
well,
part
the
of-
budget workshop's part of this meeting, but if you want to swap and have public comments before that,
Yeah,
y'all
okay.
can.
Yeah, if that's how you want to do it, that's fine.
Staff's reason for leaving it at the end was so that they'd be able to make if they stay to the end for the whole budget workshop, they'd be able to make comments on the budget at that point if they wanted to. But that's not a problem to swap it, if that's what y'all want to do.
We'll have people stay for the whole conference and have something to say at the end.
That's what I'm saying. If y'all want to leave it as it is, that's the reason staff had it that way.
Right, I prefer to leave it at the end.
But there's also not a problem with switching it in case people didn't want to stay for the budget session.
I want to leave it the way it is. I'll be interested in any comments after our budget portion.
Jan?
It's fine with me.
John?
Leave it as it is.
All right,
Fine.
we'll leave it as it is. Anything else on the agenda? Again, everybody, I apologize. I have dental problems. I'm slurring my words, so not used to getting old. Do we have any public comments at this time?
Can I just ask another question? What is the status regarding the mayoral vacancy?
That's not on the agenda right now, Rich. Public comments, please.
My name is John Farrell. I live at 624 Oyster Bay Drive. In preparing for this meeting and looking at information in the past on the dredging, it occurred to me that it would be a lot clearer to the public if you change the name of the dredging project to the name that's used on the drawings for the permits, which are the Town of Sunset Beach Navigation Project, the maintenance dredging of South Jinks Creek, the Bay Area, and the feeder channel. Designating it as a maintenance project, I think, would be much clearer to the public as to what this project has evolved to.
Thank you, John. Any other comments at this time? No other public comments. We start old business, dredging grant, conflict of interest, and requested documents. At this time, I'd like John Corbett to read the letter from Grady, our town attorney, regarding conflict of interest.
What has happened is that a number of citizens and council members have written to the state, and the process for renewing the grant, giving us the grant for the dredging process has been put on hold to address an alleged conflict of interest. And the conflict of interest is the fact that I own a piece of property that is on one of the canal areas, which would be dredged. Our attorney has addressed this several times. He responded to the State Department of Environmental Quality, and I'm going to read his response to you and add a couple of comments in the process. Dear Dr. Cordiero, good afternoon. And this was sent on April 11th, and I'm asking that this be put into the dredging record also so that everybody can see this. I am the attorney, I'm reading on behalf of our attorney Grady Anderson. Richardson, geez. He was a baseball player, I think.
Played for the Orioles.
He did, yes. And I'm an Orioles fan. Good afternoon. I am the town attorney for the town of Sunset Beach. I have served as the town's attorney since the fall of 2014. I am in receipt of the attached documents provided to the town on or about 3 April 2019 in response to the town's public record request pertaining to your email dated 11 March 2019, which is pasted below. All these documents will go into it. But a number of our citizens sent letters to DEQ, and the DEQ, we had to do a Freedom of Information Act request to actually get the letters and to find out what the accusations were that were being made. Now I'm back to Grady's letter. I have researched and dealt with the allegations of potential conflicts of interest as alleged in the attached compilation, nothing short of 3 separate occasions. On one such documented occasion was the town council's meeting of May 1st, 2017, reflected in the minutes from that meeting, which are also attached. The complainants alleged that an impermissible conflict of interest exists based on their assertions on 2 primary grounds, to wit, first, one current council member, John Corbett, has property adjacent to one of the navigable streams that might be dredged, and second, that an unnamed developer is believed to have strong political connections and influence, and that said developer owns properties that could benefit from the dredging, if dredging occurs. Most of the allegations are summed up in Town Councilor Serrato's attached letter dated 10 March 2019. That was one of the letters that went to DEQ. Mr. Serrato's allegation in paragraph 1 of his letter is irrelevant and immaterial. Mr. Serrato's assertion that the dredging was allegedly proposed by a private developer to gain water access does not give rise to any impermissible conflict on behalf of the town or its council. Mr. Serrato's allegation in paragraph 2 of his letter of a former alleged encounter in January 2016, over 3 years ago, that a former employee of the town who served as local camera representative supposedly had an appearance of conflict of interest with an unnamed developer is, again, irrelevant and immaterial and does not give rise to any impermissible conflict on behalf of the town or its council. Moreover, the former employee cannot and could not, when she was a town employee, vote on any dredging decisions the town may wish to pursue. Mr. Serrato's allegation in paragraph 3 of his letter has nothing to do with any assertion of conflict of interest. And that's that the dredging program was approved by the council without any citizen input or detailed public discussions. I have a separate chronology going back to 2013 that shows that dredging has been a topic in this town council since at least 2013 and as far back as 2012, when Mr. Serrato was mayor. Mr. Serrato's allegation in paragraph 4 of his letter is about a former mayor of the town, Ron Watts, and Mr. Watts' alleged general arrangements with the developer. Again, these allegations do not touch and concern the town and its current council, and the mayor only votes in the event of a tie. Mr. Serrato's assertions in this paragraph are again irrelevant and immaterial and do not give rise to any impermissible conflict on behalf of the town or the council. Mr. Serrato's allegation in paragraph 5 of his letter is about 2 unnamed council members. I believe these council members to be former Councilwoman Carol Scott and current Councilor John Corbett. This appears to be the crux of the complainant's conflict assertions. Essentially, the complainants contend that if a councilman or councilwoman own property adjacent to any area that may be dredged, it necessarily means that they have impermissible conflict. The complainants assert this notwithstanding the fact that, one, there are hundreds of properties that may be adjacent to the proposed dredging area. Two, all members of the public that wish to go boating will benefit from this dredging. And three, no dredging has actually been approved and is in the process of being implemented. The town is only in the study and analysis phase to consider the town's options of whether to do any dredging. I've reviewed this issue multiple times. The council, in my opinion, is very clear that on the continuum of constantly evaluating whether any impermissible conflict is present so as to preclude a council member's affirmative obligation to vote on matters of town business, no such impermissible conflict exists for Mr. Corbett. When Ms. Scott was on the town council, I also did not believe any impermissible conflict existed for her. Clearly, given that she is no longer on the council, any contention of a conflict by her simply being one of hundreds of property owners adjacent to possible dredging areas has been rendered moot. With this also, each council member has an affirmative duty to vote absent a direct financial benefit and/or conflict. For the complainants to assert that Mr. Corbett or any council member may benefit indirectly from dredging adjacent to their property, and that aspect alone gives rise to them needing to recuse themselves, is akin to saying that if a council approves paving and repairing a public road that runs by their properties, they should recuse themselves from voting on it. Under this strained view of an alleged conflict of interest, very little, if any, town business could ever be done by any of the council members because they would likely benefit directly or indirectly by all town action. I attach you a couple of articles on the continuum aspect, conflict of interest analysis, and the primary duty to vote by council members. Again, in the attachments there was from the School of Government, the discussion of what constitutes conflict of interest. The remaining items, number 6 and 7 in Mr. Serrato's letter, do not touch and concern any allegations of impermissible conflicts of interest. Number 6 was that the county boat registration record said there are only 13 residents of the 350 impacted by owners that own boats. That was determined to be not a conflict of interest, and it's also not a really accurate statement of the boat presence. Number 7 is that a great percentage of Mr. Serrato's letter is a great percentage of impacted owners live on narrow canals and are prohibited from purchasing larger boats. As a result, they have small boats or kayaks. There's nothing at all that prohibits any of the owners on the canals or waterways from purchasing whatever kind of boat they want. What is prohibitive is the depth of water and whether they can use those boats. So back to Mr. Richardson's letter. If you or anyone in your department wish to discuss this with me, please let me know. I will be out of my office on secured leave on family spring break from 13 to 18. In the absence, you can contact his partner. And just to point out, the first of the town council voted to award the contract for the shoreline management prejudging analysis to Moffett and Nickel on February 16, 2016. I was appointed to the council on November 7, 2016, and sworn in on November 15th, 2016. So, there was 3 years of dredging discussion and activities before I ever came onto the council. So I was not part of this group, whatever it was that initiated this thing. Attorney Richardson, first to the council on June 21st, 2016, made a very similar presentation saying that there was no conflict of interest for council members, at that time Carol Scott. And then on May 1st, 2017, he did the same thing. And if you're really interested in this stuff, if you go to the YouTube for the May 7th meeting, minutes 35 to 42, you'll see I dominated that part of the meeting with a rebuttal of Mr. Serrato's allegations. I would like to see that this whole matter of the alleged allegations just be dropped because there's no basis for it. Thank you.
John, thank you very much. Anybody else with comments on the dredging?
Mr. Mayor, could we have a copy of that letter? I don't have a copy of that letter that Mr. Corbett read.
It's in your emails from the town.
It's in my email?
Yes. It
Yeah.
was sent to you a day after that was written.
I never got it, Mr. Mayor.
Well, Lisa, could we please give Mr. Serrato a copy of that? Anybody else need a copy of that?
I do.
Jan? Can you give the whole council a copy of that letter, please?
I don't need one, Lisa. I copied it off the internet.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Charlie.
I'm sorry. I have just a short statement.
Go ahead, Charlie.
The emails to the DEQ from supposedly well-meaning people are full of half-truths using parts of previous communications and records. This obvious attempt to mislead the DEQ is shameful. There are also several outright lies. This small group of selfish people do not care about the town of Sunset Beach and are only interested in their personal agenda and vendettas.
Jan, you have to say anything?
No comment.
Only comment I'm going to make is the letter that was written by Mrs. Serrato to the agency in Raleigh was a disgrace. This gentleman sat here for 3 years and just said recently that this whole dais is for dredging. Mr. Serrato knows if the dredging of $1.8 million grant is taken away from us, we will not be able to dredge, and it's a dead issue. So why does he sit up here and tell us that he's for dredging when he writes letters like this on March 10th, 2019? This will be on the webpage today under the dredging column. Mr. Serrato, you owe the town of Sunset Beach an apology, or you should resign as a councilman. That's all I have to say. That's right.
The issue is about the dredging grant. The issue is the conflict of interest statement that was signed by the town. This decision will be made by the Water Resources Authority. The town has to respond to this. Now, you can divert and deflect any issue you wish you may, whether it's my resignation or my concern to promote ethics in this town. The town failed to self-report. That is the issue. That is the only issue. This council voted 5-0 to submit the dredging permit. The issue is failing to self-report. And that is the issue that needs to be addressed. So you can make me your political target all you wish. I am not intimidated.
The only thing I need to say, the letter from our attorney speaks 1,000 words. He stated for the last 3.5 years that Carol Scott did not have to recuse herself. John Corbett does not have to recuse himself. In my opinion, the matter is dead. Lisa, how do I table this for 90 days?
Policy 17, I believe, is where y'all,
I like to enact.
but it's after a motion fails that y'all can table. I believe is the way it's written.
Yeah.
Has,
All right, say it again, I can't.
A motion has to fail before I think you can enact policy 17, I believe.
There's
Well, I
no
can-
motion on the floor.
So can I make a motion to table this for 90 days and see if it fails, or how's that work? I'd like to make a motion to not discuss this matter anymore. It's a dead issue. Can I make that motion and we vote for it? That means it has to be taken off the disposition?
No. Y'all can make that motion, y'all can vote on it, but you can't dictate, say, the next council can talk about it, or your policies allow any member to put any item on the agenda anytime they want. That's why you have policy 17, is if it fails, and it can't be brought up again for 90 days.
Okay.
Mark?
John?
What happened is, the number of citizens raised this topic with DEQ. DEQ sent a notice back saying that the grant was being put on hold until the question of the alleged conflict of interest was resolved. Our lawyer, Grady Richardson, responded, and that was the letter that I read. He responded to the state, and that's where it stands. You know, this is just to provide information to the public of what's been going on, and it's up to the state now to determine whether they're going to issue us the grant or not.
And it's a shame. It's a shame. $1.9 million is going to be taken away from this town by grant.
Actually,
By-
about 2.7.
Oh, 2.7 rather, from just a handful of people, and it's wrong. And he sits here stating that it's ethical. Unethical is him putting this on the agenda and writing these letters to the state and telling the people that Sunset Beach he's for dredging, knowing full well if the grant's not issued, we lose the dredging because the town cannot afford to do it by itself. That is a shame. Any other comments? I'd like to go to new business, please. Deposition of directives, please.
I have one item to add.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to add for the June 3rd meeting, the Old Bridge Preservation Society, one of our local nonprofits, would like to make a presentation on reporting to the town and the council of what they're doing and how their program has been developed and what future steps they expect to be taken.
I have no problem with that.
I would also suggest that item 16, conflict of interest recusal, be dropped based on Attorney Grady Richardson's letter and findings,
I agree.
and the third time that he has done that.
Could we take that off, Lisa? Also, parking solution, this time, we're not going to come up with a solution until after the season, so could we take that off the directive and add it
What was that, Mark?
for parking, Rich? We're not going to be able to handle any parking issues now, the season started, so can we push this off until after the season's over, if we can go any other direction, to find more parking?
Yeah, the only thing I would like to add on the agenda is the board appointments. We've had interviews this past week. We've had 4 excellent candidates. 2 are already on the board and 2 excellent candidates that applied, but as you well know. So I'd like to put the term issue on the agenda.
It's
Term
there,
issue,
number
or-
2.
Are you talking about the term limits issue you've got at the bottom, or are you talking about just the Board of Adjustment appointments?
Item number 2.
No, I'm
That's
talking about the board appointments, term limits on board appointments.
Oh, okay.
I think Lisa has the agenda report.
Yeah, that's item number 20.
Well, yeah, I don't,
Yes. That's on, it's on,
Yeah, but what date do you want it for?
It's on there for the,
what date do you want to put it on, Rich?
No, number
whatever date
20.
you can squeeze it in.
He said the term limits.
I mean, it's been on the agenda for months.
Can we put that on the May 6th, please? So we're okay with taking the parking off, we're going to add the term limits to May 6th.
I think that's the parking problem solutions, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. just-
I can't hear you, Jan.
We're not going to do anything this season, so I just wanted to push off.
I agree with that, but please
back
leave it
on.
on. I mean,
Well, okay.
Is there anything else on this list that anyone would like to go ahead and place on the next agenda? And the list is piling up.
I don't want to start World War III, which created during the community meeting, because someone said that there wasn't going to be any parking on Main Street, and then all of a sudden, the meeting was 98% talking about parking on Main Street. I'm just going to alert all of you, I don't know what the solution is, but with the addition of the sidewalks on South Main Street, in my observation and driving through Main Street, I've noticed a lot of cars now are parked on the bike lane, particularly on the east side. Now, I don't know if there's room between the sidewalk, between the bike lane, the easement, and then the sidewalk,
There's 9 feet, Rich.
if there's going to be
There's
concern.
9 feet. There's enough room to park without going in the bike lane or the sidewalk. There's 9 feet, Rich.
I'm just telling you that people are parking on the bike lane. I don't know if that's going to be a problem or not. I'm just alerting you that we're going to have some issues regarding that this summer. Can we all agree to that, at
And
least?
Not yet.
No.
No.
But also, the police are aware of that.
All right. I'm just raising a little orange flag.
I think, real quick, John, I think
Mr.
that
Mayor.
I'm driving down Main Street, I've noticed several tickets when they do break the rules. I think you're doing a good job doing that. So we just keep the officers abreast of the east end. I don't go down that way too often, but I'm sure you're aware of the problem and you're on top of it, correct?
The issue on the east end currently is because the sidewalk is under construction and there's a ditch on either side, and it has taken away some of that 9 feet.
Okay.
But once that's corrected in areas where that's already completed, there's no issue with people parking.
Yeah.
And if they are.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was my point, and I'm on that end of the island. With the construction underway, they are parking in the, particularly with the great weather that we've been having and the Easter weekend coming up, the parking is taking them over onto the bike lane, but it's primarily because of the construction. On the west end, the construction's almost completely finished. You know, the areas are demarked by where the sidewalk and the road and the bike lane is, and the people seem to be parking appropriately. So once construction is over, May 17th is the target date for that. You know, that should go under control, and then we would expect that the police department would rigorously enforce no parking on the sidewalks or on the bike lane.
I also make aware that, on the west end, we've added parking spaces because of the sidewalk. So I think it's additional 15. So that's the good news. So,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, Charlie?
I have a question for Chief Claimer. In response to Mr. Serrato's complaint, how many tickets did your officers write?
In which year? This year, currently?
No, the day he was talking about,
Oh, I don't have that number in front of me, but it was a lot.
but you did respond to his complaint, correct?
Yes. Yes, and to reiterate, because I wasn't at the microphone, the east end issue is where there are ditches on either side of the sidewalk. And on the west end, as Councilman Benton referenced to, there is much less of a problem that I've seen so far this season from what we had last year.
Thank you,
As
Chief.
a follow-up, while the construction is underway, is this like a grace period for the people who are parking in the bike lane?
What we're doing is trying to make notification with the folks who are in violation and see if they can move their vehicle and make them aware of other areas where they can legally park. If they are issued citations and they come to talk with us, we try to explain to them. As I said previously, I prefer a model of education over enforcement. So if I can tell people where they've gone wrong, ensure that we don't have that violation again, then we'll work with
Yeah.
them.
Well, some of those are people that live in those or staying or renting the houses that are right there, and they don't have a
They
way
can't
to
park
get
on the
under.
side streets. Parking on the other side, the non-ocean front side is already taken, and they're not left with much option because they can't get in their driveways.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of it is this being Easter break. I know the rental companies have gone out of their way to try and work with the contractors and with the people renting the houses whose driveways, some of which are completely blocked, to make the renters happy and keep the work going on. So I think some of that problem will go away once the driveways are open.
I believe so, and I've seen in several instances where they put fill in, at least for one lane, so that they can get in and maneuver into the driveway to alleviate the parking issue on the east end.
Hang in there, be patient.
You got it. It's going to be worth it in the long run.
Absolutely.
Anything else for me?
No, Chief, thank you
Thank you.
very much. At this time, is anything, other directives that need to change, be added to the agenda next month? We're okay? At this time, I'd like to take, oh, well, I'm sorry. At this time, we'll start talking about the budget workshop. Could we take a short recess, please? looking for, word. Sessions, there you go. Duh. We asked the department head to go out and look and see where they can cut to make it a little bit better budget for us. They did. I also had a meeting on Friday with Randy Thompson and not marshal, but fire, what's his position? County administrator for fire. And at that meeting, we raised the fire fees 5%.
You recommended.
We recommended it. And the numbers are here. The council members were given.
When was that approved by the council?
Let me finish, Rich. So at that meeting, we looked at what 5% would do to the budget and also what 5% would do for our fire district. And the numbers there, that would bring our current fire 99% paid for by the fire fee. So I would like to recommend to the town council that we raise our fire fee 5%.
Was that a motion?
That's a motion.
Is that
Second.
what, sorry, real quick, is that what the county has to still vote on that at their budget, or is
No,
that?
no, they signed the letter. We signed a letter, correct, Paul, that would be implemented if we passed by the council.
So like last year, where we had to wait for them to figure it out at budget time, that's not the case this year?
My understanding is we could have went up as high as 10%, but we decided all we needed was 5%. Is that correct, Paul?
Forgive me a little bit for, I'm still learning the fire fee thing and how it all works, but I think the county commissioners have to take action too, right? Hiram, do you know?
I thought they did, but go ahead.
Well, last year they had to approve it during their budget cycle. But I mean, I wasn't involved in this meeting this year, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, because it wasn't discussed specifically at the meeting Friday, so,
But we still have to make a motion to accept the 5%, correct?
We'll
Hiram?
have to do a resolution like you did last year, if that's the case, and we'll have to do that presented at a meeting. You're not just gonna be able to do it right now. You can still look on the budget as if you're gonna do it, but you're not finally voting on the budget either until June.
So do we
So-
put this on the agenda for May or wait through June?
I would recommend you do it as soon as possible so that we can give you a balanced budget. So May would be my recommendation.
So in the meantime, could someone call the county to make sure when they're going to vote for this?
And we can look into it.
Okay. So right now, I'm making a resolution to accept this 5% increase, correct?
We're gonna put a resolution on the May 6th meeting for you
Okay.
to
Alright.
consider as a council.
All right, Lisa, can you put that on May 6th, please? Resolution to accept the 5% increase of fire fees.
Is that a motion? I'm confused. I'm
No,
totally
putting
confused.
it on the agenda for May 6th, a resolution to discuss.
Thank you.
And when we do that, we'll have sort of an explanation of the rationale in the process
Mhm.
for raising it 5%.
Well,
I can have, I guess, Mayor Pro Tem Benton can prepare the agenda item since that's a separate committee by statute, remember? This is a committee set up by general statutes that involves the county commissioner for our region, the fire administrator for the county, a citizen at large that the county appoints,
right.
the mayor, or in this case, the mayor pro tem with no mayor sitting, and then our fire chief. Those are the only members of this board by general statute that's comprised that way. Last year, as opposed to previous years where that board met and their say was final, something happened and the county required us to start doing resolutions of support. So what we'll present to y'all is probably just a cut and paste of last year's resolution of support, if that's the route y'all want to go, but the discussion would take place at May 6th. My recommendation on that, though, at this point is the fire department's the only budget that's affected, or the only department affected by these fees, and we can, not burn that bridge, sorry, no puns. We can handle that later, but we can proceed forward on the basis that this 5% exists or not exists as y'all choose. But since he's insulated with those revenues can only be spent on the fire department. And we can proceed in that manner before we have a final confirmation, but I still have to give y'all a balanced budget at that same meeting where you'll make this resolution. So I'd just like some direction on whether we should proceed without it or with it to bring to y'all. It'd be easier to proceed with it because it'll be easier to cut out what we add back in.
I think did I make a motion with that, or?
No, y'all just have to come to consensus. There's no voting during the budget process until the event of accepting the budget. So I just moving forward, if this is the case, I'd like to go ahead and include that in, because it'll be easier to pull it out than it will be to add it back in and scramble at the last minute.
Hiram, if I'm correct, and I just quickly looked at the standard, we're talking about a revenue of an additional $30,000 roughly?
I just saw this. I haven't had a chance. Tara, do you know? I mean, how,
Are you talking about the change in fire fees?
Yes.
Well, if this 5% fire fee is approved, there will be additional revenues of approximately $30,000. Is that correct?
90,000.
Hmm?
It's 90,000.
what are these two numbers then?
That top number was, so back in March, Paul had to submit the draft budget. So this was, he had to submit it before we did any adjustments on the budget. So that's what that top number is. It's not relevant to what the fire fees are right now, because that was prior to, so that's why it looks like that's what the difference is there.
Okay, so
But
that's.
the current revenue right now is 1.82, correct? Yeah, 1.82.
All right.
And so they're proposing 1.91.
Right. And just for clarity's sake for the council, we didn't produce this sheet. This was given to us by the county. The county fire administrator
Yeah.
produced this.
And I'd like to tell everybody, we got this about 5 minutes ago.
And the
That
town
we-
got it an hour ago.
Yeah, so,
What I'm trying to find out is just a simple number. We have a fire fee. We get revenues from that fire fee per year. If we have a 5% increase, what will the new revenue number be?
The new fire fee revenue would be 1.9.
What
it's
is the net change? What's the variance?
Approximately 90,000.
$90,000.
Approximately.
Approximately.
Absolutely. I take that, okay. That's what I was trying to find out.
So I think we should keep the 5% in there as we go through our budget discussions, and once we have our May 6th meeting and discuss in detail so we understand what's going on, then we decide whether we keep it or yank it.
Right.
all in favor of keeping it in the tax?
I think we should.
Yes.
I
Just-
think we should remove it.
Okay, I'm making
Not,
I'm just-
suggestion.
He made a suggestion,
I'm
I'd like to
I'm
make
middle
a
of a sentence,
suggestion.
Rich. You can't cut me off. All in favor of keeping it on, say aye.
Well, we can't vote. We
No,
just
keep
do
it
a
on.
Just a
consensus.
consensus.
I
just a
agree.
consensus.
It's a consensus.
Just
to keep
agree
it
or
on.
disagree.
I agree.
Charlie?
Yes, I
Dan?
agree.
No.
Aye. That stays on.
And for your information, what we presented to y'all as far as the updated packet does not include that 5%. What y'all got, the numbers we were able to give y'all yesterday, because like I said, we didn't have this information till today.
Hiram, maybe you didn't get the email, but I sent an email asking for a simple itemized list of all the additions.
It's in your packet.
Yeah, I made
Is it in the packet?
I
It's in the
did.
packet that you picked up this morning.
And the additions to the fixed cost,
Correct.
Is that in the
So I
packet?
have it broken down by department, and
Yeah,
I
see that, yeah.
broke down the merit and the bonus
It's
and
your,
the
it's your
capital.
page number 4.
So it's in this,
Page 4.
Well, it's page 6, because the revenues aren't numbered.
Oh, the revenues aren't numbered?
No.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. I've really tried to put the page numbers on there for you, though.
So the changes is $62,300, correct? For the changes
What?
on page 6.
No,
No, no,
I'm
it's-
saying it's the
it's numbered
sixth
page 4.
but it's, the page number is 4. I'm sorry. So I broke it down by personnel and capital as far as the additions for you. and what the amounts are per department, and then I did a total too.
Yeah, I think the taxpayers should know that we have a slight dilemma. And correct me if I'm wrong, please, because my memory sometimes slips me. We have a tax rate now of 15 cents. Based on the budget that has been proposed and refined, the town has, one of the options is to suggest a 16-cent tax rate. In other words, an increase of one penny. Last year, we decreased the tax rate by 1 penny. So we're trying to balance it, the budget, at 15 cents. There is in order to reduce that, correct me, we have two options. Reduce expenses by 270,000 or increase revenues by 270,000, or the combination of both. Personally, I have a concern. And I said this during the budget session. We seem to have short memories. 4 years ago, we had a 52% rate hike. Did not make our taxpayers very happy. When the council said that we're in excellent financial condition. You can't be in excellent financial condition when you raise taxes 52%. It's a warning. The past 2 years, and that tax rate went up, I believe, from 10.5 cents to 16 cents.
16 and a half.
16 cents. Went from 10.5 to 16 cents. The past 2 years, we have raised the fire fee. And if we add this 5%, that would be 75% in 2 years. That is equivalent to the 52% tax rate hike.
That is not true, Rich Gerardo.
Let me please finish, and then you can explain it. That is almost equivalent to the same tax rate that we had with the 52% hike. Now, the town reported there were some reporting errors last year in the fiscal year 19 budget, either during the preparation or the reporting by the previous administration. And it was focused on the revenue side of the family primarily. And they raised the concern that revenues are decreasing. Well, here's my warning. We have a spending problem that we have to look at very carefully. We don't have a revenue problem. This is a small town, 4,200 people for 10 months of the year. We have a spending problem, and we have to decide what we want to spend on. There are two components to budgets: wants and what's necessary. Okay? We have more firemen in this town than any other town around this town. 2 years ago, Mr. Benton voted against it. I voted against it. The town fire department wanted 6 additional firemen. And we do what government always does, compromise. And now we have 3 additional firemen. That cost the town $150,000. Why this town has 17 full-time firemen and the other towns have fewer firemen with more calls and more square footage to cover, I don't know. I don't have an answer, and I can't get one. But I'm just cautioning all of you. I know it doesn't sound like much money because it's perceived that this is a wealthy town and we should be the best in the world. But there's a point of what is truly necessary. My background is not government, it's business. My budget experience is not government, it's business. So I don't have the answer to these things. But we throw out these blankets, public safety. We need to do public safety. Public safety. We have a police chief who's doing an excellent job. He wants to hire more people. for animal control. I'm not saying that's not a bad idea. My question is it necessary? And what are we doing? We have the most important problem that we have in this town is stormwater management. It's been that way for years, and we finally got people's attention to get it fixed. And that's what we should be focusing on. Our beach patrol budget used to be $42,000 a year to go up and down in the little UTVs. Now it's $111,000 a year. I can't fix this. But until we change our culture to be more concerned about spending and stop worrying about revenues, this is not going to end. And we're a small town. This is not going to end. The council wanted a new DPW department. They wanted a dog park. They wanted all these things. And I thank the staff for recognizing these concerns. We want all these things and we don't have citizen beach parking. I can't fix this. I can't fix this. This has to be a collective effort. And I realize because it's me sending out this message, it's not going to be well received, even if it makes sense or not, because it's coming from me. That is my warning.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, real quick, Charlie, I just have something to say. I'll get right to you. We just got this increase in fire fees information today, 5 minutes ago. I don't have enough data to come tell you who's affected, how much is affected, but you're talking dollars, not hundreds of dollars. And this is one way to raise money for the town because not a majority, but a lot of the properties are outside of Sunset Beach. So Ocean Ridge is going to help pay for some of this, our fire department, which they should, and they do. So I thought this is a right way to get our budget level for the fire department. I listened to Rich's concerns, and some of I agree with. But the thing is, it costs money to run a town. And at 15 or 16 cents, it's one of the lowest tax towns in North Carolina. We have to look at that also. Charlie? What?
I have a-
Charlie. Go ahead, Charlie.
We really need a reality check here. At our last town meeting, many citizens said they would not mind paying higher taxes to improve public safety and maintain the same level of town services. Previous councils continually put needed projects off in order to maintain an artificially low tax rate. To continue in this manner would be a disservice to our taxpayers and only worsen in the years to come. Stormwater has been put off for years and is still not budgeted. Who knows how much damage and extra expense this has caused? Putting off the Main Street sidewalk project for 6 months costs the town about $500,000. We can't keep kicking things down the road to keep the tax rate artificially low. We need a reality check and should not continue to go down this road. To maintain and improve public safety, keep the same level of town services, and grow our fund balance, a tax rate of 19 cents is not unreasonable. Now, some will cry this is an election year. So, in order to hopefully be reelected, we have to keep the tax rate low. So, I'm suggesting a tax rate of 17 cents. And that's a $60 addition to the tax bill of someone that owns a $300,000 house.
John?
We all are very concerned about what we spend the money on, what we don't spend the money on. But you know, we have a key factor here is that we need to start off looking at what our requirements are, what it is that we're trying to do, where we're going. Charlie pointed out stormwater. We did over $1 million worth of stormwater and infrastructure equipment and repair material last year. And most of that money had to be pulled out of our accounts, our general accounts, to do that. We have not looked ahead, planned, and programmed for the development that provides the services, yes, safety, that provides the infrastructure, that provides the quality of life that most of us came here looking for. And that means we have to sit down and look at these things and what we're trying to do. And the first point of looking at these things is not to start in saying we're going to freeze the budget or we're going to reduce taxes by X, Y, or Z, or we're going to increase them by X, Y, and Z. First, we have to do the budget analysis. And I would like to say that our staff has responded to council guidance and has done a very good job looking at the budget as laid out and what the requirements are. I think we've cut some things, and I think we've overlooked some stuff that still needs to be done. One of the things is we have to continue to accelerate what we're putting in for our stormwater system. That is really critical. And that, if you think about it, goes directly into our preparedness for handling storms and emergencies. You know, if the stormwater drains are all clogged up and we do have a bad storm, you know, you just get the chaos that follows afterwards. My point is, we have a very conservative budget right now. The staff has come up with a way to meet the current requirements by doing a 16-cent tax rate. I commend them for that. I think there's more things that we ought to include in there, and we ought to be more than willing to knock it up to 17% and do the things that this town needs and provide the quality and the services and the safety and the capabilities that most of us came here looking for.
Jan?
No comment.
I got elected 3 years ago, tax rate of 16.5 cents. Council's reduced it, and at this time, I think I have no problems bringing it back to 16 cents a hundred to make it, the budget a little easier to handle and take care of the items we need to be taken care of at this time. So that's what I have to say, Rich. What do you have to say?
Like I said, I can't change this mindset, and it's a mindset that is, and I bless the staff, it's a mindset created by this council during the beginning of this budget process. They wanted to hire more firemen, more policemen, more for public service. Public service, to me, is a catchword. When you say our rate's only 15 cents, that's a PR word. Our rate is only 15 cents because our assessments are higher than most towns. And other towns are structured differently than Sunset Beach. Some have their own water systems, their own other infrastructure needs that we don't have. We depend upon the county. So when you just throw out a number of 15 cents, there's just so many variables in a tax rate. And we throw it out to say we're the lowest. In other words, we're the best. It's not.
Rich,
The assessments are
Rich,
high.
can I ask you a question? What rate would you like to have it at?
If I had my choice, I would not raise the fire fee. We've raised it already 70% in 2 years. If I had my choice, we would make expense cuts.
Where?
We don't need all this. I would make cuts in, we don't need an additional police officer. I want to see the overtime numbers broken down. You don't hire people to save overtime when it's going to cost you more money. We're adding to our fixed cost, and that's only going, fixed costs are every year. You want $500 bonuses for the employees. We did away with the bonus plan 2 years ago and implemented a pay performance system, And now we're going back to the bonus program, and Mr. Nuren has suggested $500. I mean, if you went, we've created a climate to spend. If you went to the top department heads and said, listen, sales are down, we gotta cut expenses, be creative. No, we tell them we need more firemen, we need more police, we need more this, we need more that, and that's what they do. So I can't change this culture, I can't change this climate.
Well, I have to disagree,
But I'll
Rich.
tell you, if this were the private sector, we wouldn't be having these discussions.
At the last,
That's all I'm gonna say.
well, at the last session, we went through department by department, line by line, trying to identify what additional cuts after the approximately 2 million in cuts from the beginning start of this process that the staff had made. And you didn't make one suggestion on a particular line by line item. Now you're trying to condemn the whole budget.
No, John, I think you're trying to provoke me, and you're not gonna provoke me. The entire budget was, the program was, the thought was that this meeting, we have a $270,000 shortfall. That we were gonna look at that this year, at this meeting, and go through all the expenses and to see if other expenses could be reduced, and we haven't done that yet. Okay?
At this time, could you,
Staff-
So
Mayor.
we haven't done that yet, so don't accuse me of not saying anything, which I have, when the process is not completed.
Excuse, which brings us back to the sheet that Councilman Serrato requested last time. Page 4 lists out everything that's not a standard operating expense. Well, that's not additional. I mean, that's an additional expense to that we need, or not. Now I'm getting confused. It's been a long
Yeah,
day.
Hiram, what I was looking for
Anyway.
is the 270,
It's just the numbered page.
Wrong page.
It would be.
The page looks like this.
I got it.
Okay. So this is what you wanted to see so that y'all could look at what you wanted to take away.
That's the council request page. Turn a couple more pages.
right here, Rich.
Looks like this
Page
one.
4.
I have it. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah. That's,
Okay. So,
There you go. That should be it.
You got it, Jen?
so this is the sheet that we're gonna start reducing.
This
Or
is what,
adding
this
or
is,
whatever.
this is what you asked for. It's in the budget, but I broke it out as far as personnel, like the mayor and the bonus, and then the capital additions.
Okay.
And so,
We've already done our best to tighten up the regular operating lines as much as possible, training, travel, things like that. And even then, I mean, it's,
All right,
those are
well,
as tight
let's
as
go-
we can get them. This is the area of what
All
y'all
right.
need to look at.
Well, let's go through it.
Let him finish.
I'm done.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
the-
Rob.
The first numbers we were presented by the department heads was what they'd like to have. And at one of our first meetings, we cut that down and we added what we would like to see as council people, what we thought was important to the town. And then we cut that down. And then in the following meetings, we cut again and again and again. Right now, I think we're at the bare bones. You can't pick one little thing, like the number of policemen or firemen or bonuses for employees, and try and balance the budget on that. It won't work.
Well, I like Tara to go through this real quick, just to tell people out here what we're looking at and what does it mean by cutting more. Could you do that, please?
what does it mean by cutting more?
I mean,
Like, you're talking about overall or just the sheet?
this is sheet in general. This is the police department, that's an additional cut of $93,000.
No, these are not cuts. These, Councilman Serrato asked me what additional expenses there were this year that were personnel and capital outside of like operating costs. So this is still in the budget. This is part of the budget of what the total is now. I just broke it out into separate amounts so that you could see like what they were per department. They were in the notes on the side, but I just kind of brought it into a spreadsheet. So it's just, it's what the merit costs are and like the police department is like radios and the cameras and like the capital type things like that are also on this page. And then the fire department is on a, like the radio replacement schedule. So that would be considered like a capital purchase. So that's also separated out of there. I did go through the different departments and look at specific line items that we looked at, and I put those in red on your budget pages, and then added them to the changes page.
I'll point out real quick that if you're looking at the sheet that Councilman Serrato requested, we've already removed, if you look at this, only the police department and the fire department are the only ones that any extra costs that are not personnel related. And the only personnel related costs for administration, finance, inspection, streets, and stormwater would just be the bonus or merit increases.
Yeah, just for my own.
So equipment wise, it's only the police and fire department that we haven't cut everything from everyone else.
Just for my own clarification, when I see the total 413,000,
That's all capital and
That's-
personnel additions.
that's everything.
That's everything on this page.
Yeah, got it. I didn't have a chance to really study this because I only picked it up this morning because it wasn't available until when, yesterday afternoon?
3 o'clock yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, I came up this weekend and went through line items and
I mean, there's a lot of stuff here, that's all I'm just trying to say.
The bottom line, though, what did you want to do with this information, this data, Rich?
I think we should look at to see if we can cut cost. That's what the purpose of this meeting was. Am I wrong, Jen?
I didn't hear the answer.
To cut costs.
I mean, let's start with the first one. Are we gonna have bonuses this year?
I'm in favor of bonuses.
I'm in favor of bonuses.
So am I.
So we're having bonuses.
What's the amount of the bonus?
$500. Totaling $25,837 for the whole staff as it stands right now.
Okay. Okay. Yep.
And the merit is at 3%, top level?
yeah,
Max.
that's the maximum.
That's if everybody, all 48 employees got 3%.
If everybody got a great evaluation,
It'd be $68,000 roughly.
correct.
Last year, how many got the 3% versus less? There was a percentage?
I don't know exactly off the top of my head. I know it wasn't the majority.
So that number, 68,000, is going to change, get somewhat lower, correct?
It may, but again, the purpose of budgeting is to budget for what you could spend.
Tarek, I know you can't do it today, but can you tell me what last year, what was budgeted for and what was actually used? And send me an email.
I can look into it, yeah, I don't
okay.
know.
Yeah, I
off the
know,
top of my
I know,
head.
that's fine. Promotions, you're looking at $6,800,
That was for the police department.
right?
That was 2 police promotions to corporal.
Corporal, right, chief? To corporal.
Are we on the police, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, are we on the police department now? No, I understand that.
No, we're just looking at promotions, that's $6,800.
Oh, okay.
corporals.
Yeah, well, that's in the police department.
So the additional staff is for the police officer,
And the beach supervisor, but I actually removed the beach supervisor from this budget because we couldn't figure out any other way to bring the fire department down to the current revenues, because we had already cut his operating budget by so much. So the only way to bring the fire department budget down to meet what the fire fees were was to remove that beach supervisor position.
Now, Tara, is that with the additional 5% or no?
That is not, because I didn't have
That information.
that number until today. So Paul and I had a meeting last week, and when we were looking through it, that was all we could figure out to try to make the fire fees in line with, or I'm sorry, the fire expenditures with the fire fees.
Okay.
So that is actually in the budget pages that you have, the beach supervisor is not in there.
Paul, have you estimated that 5%, would that increase enough to get your patrol for the beach?
Technically, yes, it would. Based on the sheet we gave y'all before, where it was still in there, that estimated cost would be enough to fund that part.
Well, I have a question then. If we don't have a beach supervisor, who is going to pick up that work?
So I left enough in there for, I didn't completely remove the beach supervisor per se, because I kept in there a small amount of money so that one of his staff would be able to have a portion taken out of their salary to supervise the beach, but that was just budgeting. I don't have the answer as far as what you would do.
Does
puts us
does that
back in-
mean,
Go ahead.
does that mean then that, say, Richard Childress does it again this year? We're going to again work him like a dog, and some of that work has to suffer. Either his work as assistant chief or his work as a beach supervisor. Something is going to suffer in that. I want to see the beach supervisor in there.
We discussed and we analyzed and saw that the beach patrol situation last year, using the deputy chief as the supervisor, was just not a good use of our deputy chief and not an effective way to run the beach patrol. And the recommendation was to hire a person to be the beach supervisor, and during the off-season, as well as preparing for future beach activities, to provide the support. What exactly did you call that?
Community risk reduction.
The community risk reduction aspect, which in our discussions, I found to be a compelling use of the person and useful for this town, and particularly when we consider our demographic and the value of helping our residents just reduce the risk and just leave it like that.
Tara,
I would like that position kept.
Okay, Tara, I have a question for you. In these numbers here, is this at 15 cents or 16 cents?
Those are just expenses.
I know that, but with this budget here, this one here is done.
I have it broken down between the three still.
Yeah.
Like, so I put that column at the bottom that you had asked for, what the difference is
Right.
for, if we stayed at 15 cents, we would still have to find $153,000 to cut out of there, and that's with the beach supervisor already removed. So if I put the beach supervisor back in, then we're back up to a higher amount.
And at the 16-cent column, without the beach supervisor, you're talking about we're 6,000
To the good,
to the good.
right.
Okay.
But
With a combination of increased fire fees and being to the good at 16 cents, we would have a balanced budget,
Correct,
even though we would not be accomplishing quite everything we're trying to do this year.
right.
But it would still be a move forward.
I like to propose that we keep our rate at 16 cents, push it to 16 cents, and on the May meeting, we vote in the fire fee on May 6th.
And put the beach supervisor back into the
Put
budget.
it back in, okay.
Do I have to have a resolution on that, Hiram, or
No,
just?
we're just, again, we just need a consensus to provide y'all the balanced budget for you to set the public hearing on May 6th for June 3rd.
Who's in favor for keep pushing it to 16 cents a hundred on the budget, keeping the fire fee at 5% increase? All in favor?
I would support that at this point in time.
Harley?
17 cents is more realistic.
I'm not going to vote for 17 cents, but I'll vote for the fire fee of 5% and 16 cents.
All right.
And I keep to- and
Would you
that's-
consider 16 and a half?
No, 16 is fine.
Okay.
Jan?
I'm good with that.
John?
I'm good with that.
Jan? Rich? You have to vote, Rich. Say no. Please don't give me the eyes. Say no or yes or no. No, I think that's a no.
What your opinion is, it's not a vote.
Okay,
So I'm just wasting my time.
okay. All right.
And I don't want to be asked to leave, okay?
Not to be asked to leave. I'm an aye. Okay, that's 3. Do the fire fee at 5% and keep 16 cents a hundred and put on the beach patrol. All right?
Right.
And then you make the budget for that and give that to us for the, do we have to make a special meeting before May 6th, Hiram?
If I know what tax rate you're focused on and like different things that you're headed towards as a consensus, then that will help me bring this budget more into like a specific of where we're headed and what we can and can't do. So,
So the directive I just gave, is that enough information for you to go forward?
yeah,
I
and
have a question on it, though.
Go ahead, John.
In addition to the beach supervisor, were there any other big
well, I know
changes that
Paul
you
and I
made
had, as far as the fire department.
as far as anybody?
Well, I know with the fire department, one of the directions I think that we want to go is to set up like a capital reserve, because that way, when they need a fire truck, we're not trying to finance the whole thing. It, have
Yeah.
some in reserve for the fire
Wouldn't
department.
that 5% increase, if it comes out to about $90,000,
We'll be able to have,
start putting some money into that fund?
right,
Right, and we can come back to
Potentially
y'all
40
with
to
that figure.
50,000,
Right.
something like that.
yeah, and now
Yeah.
that as a consensus, that's the direction, now I can set that up and I
Okay.
can show that to
Could you-
you.
yeah. Could
But my
put
question was, anywhere else in the budget, did you do significant cuts, like removing the beach patrol supervisor?
Just
In this round, since
this round,
the April 3rd meeting?
oh my goodness, I don't think that there was anything significant other than, the natural disaster line at 50,000, that's fine.
Yeah,
Like,
we
I don't
agreed
think
with-
that needs to be
Yeah,
changed.
We agreed with that.
And we did most of those heavy cuts before last week's budget workshops.
Well, didn't the chief cut a police officer out?
Yeah, we did that all before,
No.
That
not
was-
since Thursday, but before Wednesday we
Okay.
did.
Okay.
So those numbers aren't represented here. But my recommendation is if, with all these variables and with some finagling, I would like to bring y'all another draft before I bring y'all the final draft at May 6th.
So Lisa, could we set up a special meeting on the calendar? Anybody have a date? I got a question for you, Chief Kramer. No, Paul, I'm sorry. When your guy is off duty, not off duty, but he's doing other functions off season, could he fulfill a job of animal control too? Just a thought.
What's that?
On the surface, I'm gonna say no, because
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Question was, the 4 or 5 months he's doing other services than beach patrol, could he be filling it as animal control?
No,
Why?
not a sworn police officer. And we're not gonna be able to bridge them between those two departments because of the retirement, the special legislation that goes into both their job classifications.
Okay. Just a thought, Paul. Ask that question.
Except we're closed on the 19th.
That's fine.
We're already meeting again on the 23rd. So would y'all like to meet in the afternoon to discuss budget first?
What's it,
What? Did we determine the time for the 23rd?
6 o'clock on the 23rd was that meeting.
the 23rd meeting is
The mayoral,
mayor and,
public forum.
okay. Yeah, I think that's can we do it right after that meeting,
No, right before.
before? Okay.
5 o'clock?
No, can you think you can do this in an hour?
The 23rd, Rich, we're having a vote for the mayor position and all that.
We're having
Maybe,
the public hearing.
Here, public
Yeah.
hearing of it.
Public.
So it'll be before that meeting.
4:30. Can we say 4:30 on the 23rd? And just go over the last final draft before we present a final draft for,
That's for the budget.
right.
And it won't be a final, then it's just another step till we can get to May 6th.
Yeah, because that'll give us time to take any tweaks from that and actually get y'all something and put in the agenda packets
And this will.
the next week.
I'm sorry, Norm, and this would include the 5% raise
Yeah.
in the fire fee and a penny raise in the tax rate, is that correct?
Yeah, so that y'all can look at that part of it. And
Thank you.
see if it meets what your expectations are.
I'm good with that.
Jan, are you okay with that date and
Good.
time? John?
Good.
And we'll do our best to get you the paperwork Thursday afternoon since we're closed Friday. If not, I can come in Friday and knock
I'll
it out
see
for
you
y'all.
Monday's fine.
All right, trying to give y'all the weekend to look at it also.
If you can get it Friday, Thursday, that'd be great.
I'll do my absolute best to get it to you as soon as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Like focusing in, it should be able to.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to have public comments. You have 3 minutes, please.
May I make a public comment?
Can I stop you?
Probably not. I just wanted, for everyone's information, we had 2 vacant positions open, the stormwater manager and the planning director. We have filled the stormwater manager position. He will be starting this Thursday. We have tentatively filled the planner position, just waiting for their acceptance letter back. And they will possibly be starting this Thursday as well. So we'll have full staff and responsibilities back. And I know the stormwater people, those projects haven't lagged out. It'll be nice to not have to divert 3 people to do the job of 1 person so that we can get those projects done.
Good, all right.
So-
Good job.
Good job.
Good.
All right, and at this time, public comments, please, 3 minutes. State your name and address. No public comments. I'd like to adjourn this meeting.